GenderNet was just about the funding organization together, exploring, mapping what existed at national level on programs that supported structural institutional change through gender equality plans, and programs that supported the integration of the gender dimension, so sex and gender-based analysis in research and innovation content. And then there was GenderNet Plus, and with an added challenge and added opportunities that I can see clearly today, is that we were asking the research funding organization to put money on the table to have joint calls for proposals. So I did that project, not alone, but and it was not that easy to get everybody to put some large amounts of money together, but that worked out, and I'm really thrilled to see how this developed and see all of you here today. And congratulations, Mathieu and Elisabeth, for coordinating this.
Chloe.
And Chloe, sorry. And the whole team, right? So now, since 2017, I've been on leave from CNRS to be a senior policy officer in the gender sector of DG Research and Innovation of the European Commission in a unit that's now called Democracy and European Values, in a directorate that's called People. So that's just so you know. So now I'll try to give you an overview, and I hope it won't be too long, but you will get my slides if you want to go back, of where this project fits in the overall policy framework, and what's coming up, and how you can really have an impact on what's the next work program, the next policies at EU level. So I'll try to give you, and also maybe give you some examples of projects you should liaise with, you could liaise with, I mean, something that could keep going on to further develop your work. So, okay, now that's the College of Commissioners. So that's like our EU government of commissioners, and gender equality has really been put high on the agenda by President Ursula von der Leyen. So we could see that at different levels, and she created the first ever commissioner for equality with a task force on equality, which supposedly should have an intersectional approach, but in practice it's not really there. Let's say there's this ambition to have an intersectional approach, but it's work in progress. And we have our commissioner for research and innovation, and also culture, education and youth, so a big portfolio, and she's very supportive of gender equality. So that's at the EU government level, say. And then you have the directorate generals, which are like the ministries, like the services that have to put policies and programs into place. There's a umbrella of so this effort on equality, it's a priority, foster a union of equality, and a set of strategies have been adopted. The first one was the gender equality strategy, and then you can see all the others that have been adopted since, and the first ever LGBTIQ strategy at EU level, so a commission strategy, and more is coming up also at the legislative level. So now there's a lot of, the legislative train is on for this proposal for a directive on violence against women. So it's both the council, so really the member states, and the European Parliament that are going to discuss this and maybe put that into the law. Then every member state will have to translate that. So that's the way, just to explain how it works at EU level, a few elements of the machinery. Then at the research and innovation level, we have also a specific policy framework, which is the European Research Area. And since 2012, it's I don't know, maybe this would be better, yeah. Gender equality and gender mainstreaming in research have been a priority, and there were three underpinning objectives, gender equality at all levels of careers, gender balance in decision making, and the integration of a sex and gender-based analysis into the content of research and innovation. So this has been quite clear for a decade, but like Londa mentioned yesterday, I said 203 and maybe even 2001, really, because the first texts were there were some gender impact assessment studies that were looking in mobility, in transport, or even climate change a little bit, trying to look into the topic. So it's been going on for a while, but and we can see that there's heterogeneity across EU in different countries. So the geographical inclusiveness important. So new Commission communication saying we want to develop now inclusive gender equality plans and policies, and now we're further developing this. There was a pickup by the member states, and in November last year, a package of important documents for research policy were adopted with a recommendation, a pact for research and innovation in Europe that really declares that gender equality and inclusiveness are values and principles of the European research area, and some council conclusions defining a new era, so European research era we call it, policy agenda, and there's one specific action on the promotion of gender equality and inclusiveness and taking note of a declaration. So I won't go into the detail, but it was important because 25 member states plus the Commission plus countries associated to the program that are not in the EU have said, yes, we sign up for this. It's a priority. We agree with a set of actions that should be addressed by us in the era. So these are the 4 interlinked deliverables that we are supposed to work on, the Commission, the Member State and associated countries, and umbrella stakeholder organizations. 2 are related basically to this intersectional approach, this inclusive approach, have a coordination at a transnational level on this, and develop the concept of what it means, intersectional, so inclusive gender equality. And we are not talking about EDI here. It's really, we want to push for this concept of inclusive gender equality that has an intersectional approach. And there's also a very specific deliverable on research funding organization and the programs and the integration of a gender perspective. That's what the Council wanted as a language in that key document. So now we have to implement this. And the main instrument on which actually this new inclusive gender equality approach builds and can be translated, it's Horizon Europe, the Curing Work Program, framework program. So I put this, so you see the architecture of this framework program. It's the highest budget ever for research and innovation funding programs, so 95.5 billion euros. And you have 3 pillars and a horizontal pillar, but that's very important for us. So you have pillar 1 called excellent science. Oh no, I should say here for our remote participants. So pillar 1, excellent science. That's where you have the European Research Council. So Geneviève Almouzni is on the scientific council of this. Oh my God, ERC. Yeah, voilà. Then you have the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions. So that's more for postdocs and PhDs. And so these are really bottom-up actions with no themes that you have to submit a proposal on. It's all discovery-based. And there's the research infrastructures, so the large installations. That pillar 1 is a quarter of the whole budget. The core of the budget, it's pillar 2. So these collaborative projects that are under the different 5 clusters, you can see the 6 clusters, sorry, and also some missions. I won't go into the details, but that's also a big part of the budget. And the Joint Research Center. Basically that pillar 2, it's at roughly 60% of the whole budget. And then you have pillar 3, that's more innovation based, that's the European Innovation Council and other types of work programs. And the bottom part, widening participation, that's more for geographical inclusiveness, in particular for the Central and Eastern Europe countries, and strengthening the ERA. And it's that part where you have all the projects, the topics that will support gender equality, inclusive gender equality in organizations and advance on that issue. And yeah, that's, I thought maybe that was important, and a big important thing, because we talk about impact, that's a core change with respect to Horizon 2020. Horizon Europe, it's really about impact, and at 3 levels: scientific, societal, and economic, technological impact. And the societal one, it's very much based on the SDGs, but it's a bit wider than that. So that's the whole framework. Okay, now gender equality provision. Sorry, but it's taking a bit longer, but
I knew that.
okay. You kind of know me, yes. Okay, so then for gender equality provisions, strengthen with compared to Horizon 2020, and that at 3 levels. The gender equality plan, as it has been stated yesterday by Geneviève several times, is now an eligibility criterion. You need to have it just to have access to participating to Horizon Europe. Integration of the gender dimension into the research and innovation content, it's an award criterion. Under the excellence, there are 3 criteria for evaluating research and innovation actions in Horizon Europe: excellence, impact, and then organization. I don't remember even the exact name, but it's about the consortium and the level of the expertise in the consortium, organizations. And then there's the 3rd level, gender balance in the research teams. And that's a ranking criterion when you have a proposal with the same score. In addition to that, a novelty is that researchers can self-declare their gender along 3 categories: women, men, and non-binary. So now a little bit about gender equality plan. It's mandatory for all higher education institution, research organization, and all public bodies from the member states and countries associated to Horizon Europe that are not in the EU. And it's basically, it's a self-declaration through a questionnaire that lists the mandatory requirements and the recommended areas that we would like, not we, because it's really a consensus, a co-creation with experts, national level players, and people that were in all those gender equality plan implementing projects on what are the basic components of gender equality plans. So the basic components that are mandatory, it's these 3. Be a public document, have dedicated resources, collect and monitor and report on sex and or gender disaggregated data, and have training, build capacity, in particular on unconscious gender biases. Then we recommend these 5 areas. So work-life balance, organizational structure, culture, gender balance in leadership and decision-making, gender equality throughout the career path, integration of the gender dimension into the contents of research and teaching when it's a teaching institution, and also measures against gender-based violence, including sexual harassment. So we recommend, it's not mandatory, but for now, let's say. And we, of course, it was a surprise for many organizations. So this was first announced in 2020, really reinforced the announcement in 2021. It wasn't implemented right away. There was like a 1 year grace period. Somebody's calling something. It's okay. Grace period, and we tried to support member state organization into understanding what it meant. So different types of documents and guidance that came out, including guidance on the recommended areas, so guidance on the integration of the gender dimension in research and innovation content. Then, of course, since this is mandatory by default, like I said, it's part of the excellence criterion and it's part of the soundness of the methodology. That's what's evaluated. The appropriate consideration of the gender dimension in research and innovation content. And so that's just a summary of the rationale here. And Landa will be very familiar with that because of course it's on my next slide, but it builds very much one of the core supporting document that we we refer applicants to is the latest Gender Innovation 2 report. So this is mandatory, but in some calls for proposal, thematic, the topic drafters, let's say, have told us, look, in our case, it's really not relevant, and then we discussed that because our job at the gender sector level is to there's a lot of things, but with respect to the work program, we draft the topics for supporting the ERA part that are related to gender equality. We draft the topics that are related to gender studies and intersectional research into the cluster 2, that's core, the pillar 2, and oh, that's not me, but you didn't see that. Okay, level of battery low. I hope I won't be too long. And we also have a task to mainstream the gender equality provision and the integration of the gender dimension as much as possible into the different work programs. So, and we base that very much on Gender Innovation 2. So Landa was chaired actually the 2 expert groups that worked on this. This one has 15 case studies, refined methodologies, so many of the definition, there was a lot of work already done on that. Of course, this is an evolving field, but that's where we refer applicants to. And what you're doing now will also be new case studies we will refer them to. So and what you will produce will be more material that can help future applicants into improving their proposals. And we detail that also in the Horizon program guide. And there were, even with GenderNet, we came up with recommendations and a little video and references to different national level programs that did that. But since then, things have evolved, but we still refer to it. So now just a little bit on the dedicated funding for gender equality. So I just said that actually. So cluster 2, that's the one on social science and humanities, basically. And it's the first time that gender studies are actually really explicitly supported. So, and we wrote these 2 topics for the 21-22 work program. And then the WIDERA part, so the supporting the ERA part, I already explained. I will just give a few examples of what we're supporting and which projects you could be in contact with. And of course, there's also a lot of support for women innovators under the Pillar 3. WIDERA. So the first one, it was, I'm not sure it's this one that was mentioned yesterday, but that's a center of excellence on inclusive gender equality plan and policies. very much investigating how far we can go into having intersectional policies, but it will also look, I mean, there's a specific task force on intersectionality. You have the link there, I can also give you information on the level of advancement of the project. The second one, it's more about policy coordination through networks of national level representatives from ministries and funding organization, and that funding organization COP, we call them, is looking in particular at the integration of the gender dimension in research and innovation content. So, and it stems also from another project in which some of you were partners, the ACT project. And then we have more topics also on inclusive gender equality plan, which we want to support, its implementation, and a new price and more support to member states. So that's what's already in the current work program. The next one is already written and it's in the final stages of adoption. It should be out at the end of this month, normally. And we're already thinking about the drafting, the higher umbrella level of what will be the whole strategic plan for the last stages of Horizon Europe and how we will build that. And already thinking of what could FP10 look like. So all that is going on in parallel. So just to finish on useful resources, already we came up with a pilot study on what existed at national level on inclusive approaches to gender equality. So a lot of that is EDI, but very often treating different social characteristics and grounds for discrimination in silos, not really having an intersectional approach. That's one of the findings of this study. We have an expert group currently working on the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on gender equality in research and innovation, and Sabine Ortel-Prigione, who couldn't come, is chairing that expert group, and more studies that are going on. And I will stop here, just if you want to check we have a policy website where we try to update it. Actually, right now it's not super updated. We just sent the update to our webmasters, which should come up pretty soon. And she figures it's a big statistical report that is published every 3 years. It's the state of play on gender equality in research and innovation. It's like going through the whole career path of a researcher in different sectors, also looking at research output indicators on publication, and also on the integration of sex and gender-based analysis in publication and in our projects. So we're now preparing the next one, the 2024 She Figures edition. And I will stop here. Thank you for your attention. If you have questions.